Welcome to Partnerships for Profit, the podcast where we bring you inside the world of joint ventures, strategic partnerships, and powerful collaborations. Each episode, you'll dive into conversations with top entrepreneurs, visionaries, and business leaders, unlocking the secrets to building profitable relationships that drive growth and success. Whether you're looking to expand your network, find new referral partners, or scale your business, you're in the right place. Let's get started.
Welcome to Partnerships for Profit, presented by LeDuc Entertainment. Today we are joined by Rusty Messer, the founder and principal attorney at Big River Trial Attorneys. Rusty, welcome to the show.
Adrian, it's great to be here. Good to see you.
You know, we were just talking before the show. I was mentioning to Rusty that I love the Big River Trial Attorneys name. I think it's very Big River Trial Attorneys. Can you tell us a little bit about how you landed on that name?
Yeah, so there was a point when I was the Messer law firm. And then I tried to get a little more creative and I went to RM Legal. But ultimately, if you're trying to build something bigger than yourself, you don't need to be the focus of it. So I don't want everybody calling to ask for me because my name is on the caption. My name is on the sign. And, you know, long term, this may be something I want to sell or maybe bring other people into. You see a lot of law firms. Like 1 year they'll be, you know, Smith and Miller. Then 2 years later, they're Smith, Miller, and Johnson, and they're Smith and Johnson. And so
right.
Rotating cycle of new letterhead and naming. And I've eliminated that by going to a brand. And I also like it better than just putting my name out there all the time, because again, it's a brand that I can build around.
Sure. And can you tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about the people that you help at Big River Trial Attorneys?
Absolutely. So I am a native of Louisiana. I'm here in Baton Rouge today, where my office is. So I'm born and raised in the area, moved away, come back, but this is home. This is where family is. Interesting thing about me, before I went to law school, I used to own a copier company. And so actually, I was a little bit later in life when I went to law school. I was 30 when I went back. And so there's where kind of my business background comes from. But I was really thinking of looking at the copier business, and great business for people that do it well. But how could I get into a lower inventory situation, less dependent on when a technician is going to show up and things like that. And so I decided to go back to law school. And it's something I'd always wanted to do, but you kind of put it off. When I came out, I got the call. Everybody's really hoping to get, this big law firm wants to interview you. And they had offices in Dallas and New Orleans and New York and Cincinnati. And they hired me and shipped me to Monroe, Louisiana, which is not where I'm from. Great town, but it wasn't home. So I stayed there for about a year. And then when I left there, plus it was also a lot of big insurance defense and corporate work and things like that. Great for those that want to do that. But I'm not the kind of person that can sit at a computer for 10 hours a day and do research. I can't sit behind a cubicle or, you know, writing appellate briefs or things like that. So I came back to Baton Rouge and opened up. And primarily now I handle personal injury cases where we help people recover from either commercial accidents or industrial accidents, things like that.
And I mean, can you dive a little bit more? What are some of the pain points and problems that you're really helping those people solve in those accident cases?
All right. So let's say, and we'll start off with just a basic car accident.
Right.
That's a small part of my practice, but everybody's familiar with that, right? So we'll go there. Right after the accident happens, there's one of the first questions is, where do I get my car fixed?
Right.
You know, which body shop can I go to? How long is this process going to take? Who's going to pay to fix my car? Is my insurance going to pay? Is the other driver's insurance going to pay? So we really help people walk through the process. And a little self-promo, we actually have our own podcast called the Podcast Podcast, where we answer questions from our clients. And it's not an interview format like this, but people go on and they'll submit questions and we'll, you know, do 10 or 15 minutes answering that question. So it starts there. Probably one of the next thing on someone's mind is, do I need to go to the doctor? Which doctor do I go to? We help guide people through that process. We're not healthcare providers. We don't tell them, how to get treatment, but we can give them advice based on the experience of handling other cases.
Now, this might be a big loaded question. I don't know. But could you outline for us what are some of the common mistakes that you see people making when it comes to dealing with the insurance companies?
The number one biggest is making a statement to the insurance company. So you've been in this accident, and it's amazingly how quick they can get to you. So an adjuster calls you from the other driver's insurance company, and they're trying to get you to say things like you really weren't hurt that bad, or maybe you don't really know what happened in the crash. Maybe you weren't really paying attention, and they sound very friendly, and they're recording the statement. And later on, when they're trying to settle your case, they'll pull out that recording and say, well, remember when you said right after the crash, it didn't hurt that bad? But that's very common because right after that event, your adrenaline's up, you're in a little bit of shock. And a lot of times it's a day or two later, or it can actually be a couple of weeks later before you realize how bad it hurts.
Right. Well, I was going to say, I can imagine a situation where, somebody says, in the adrenaline of the moment, oh, I'm fine. And then they wake up the next morning and they can't move their neck. And the insurance company is going, well, you already said you were fine, right?
It's a tactic of insurance companies that always amazes me. Right after the crash, if you have a picture of yourself laying in a hospital bed, they'll say, well, the accident wasn't that bad, so you must be faking it. Where if right after the crash, you have a picture of yourself going bike riding, they'll say, well, you must not really be hurt or else you'd be in a hospital bed. So they try to play both sides of that coin.
Right. Now, you are licensed to practice in both Louisiana and Texas. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Are there any challenges that presents operating across state lines like that? And I mean, I'm always curious, especially with regards to Louisiana having Napoleonic Code.
Yeah. So our law is probably 95% the same as the rest of the states. Now, we do use some different terms for things. We'll use these kind of civil law terms, but most of it's the same. There are a few distinctions. The biggest problems come in really procedure and in the fact that good lawyers know the law and great lawyers know the judge. So I have a really good sized case right now. The accident actually happened in Louisiana, but for certain reasons, I wanted to file suit where the defendant is in Houston. And so I went and got a good friend of mine in Houston and said, hey, you're going to come work this case with me because I want somebody local at the table.
Right. And that kind of leads me into another question that I'm curious about. So when you're creating the strategies and your approach to these cases, is it a one size fits all approach for your clients, or are you kind of really custom tailoring your approach and strategy on the individual case?
So every case is absolutely unique because your injuries are not going to be the same as someone else's, and how your injuries affect you are not going to be the same as someone else's. I had a case that resolved probably middle to the end of last year. Well, the client was a marathon runner. So you can imagine what his injuries prevented him from doing are quite different than someone whose hobbies are playing video games or sewing, or, so his injuries really impacted something that he spent a lot of his time doing.
Right.
So you have to talk to your client. The biggest thing you have to do is you have to listen to your client. And this is what drives me crazy about lawyers, is they just don't listen. I told you before I went to law school, owned a copier company, and there was about 3 different occasions when I had to hire an attorney for something. And it frustrated me because they never listen to you. They don't care. They don't think about what you think is important, and you don't hear from them until it's time to pay the bill. Then all of a sudden they want to talk to you. So I determined that we are going to listen to our clients. It is one of our goals that we communicate with every client every month, even if it's just a text message saying, hey, no big news on your case this month. Hope everything is going well. If
Right.
it's just a call. I did a survey of my clients maybe about 3 or 4 years ago now, and I really need to do the survey again. But so we went out and we surveyed some of our clients and said, what did you like most about working with us? What did you like least about working with us? Tell us about the process, just understanding it from their perspective, because I see it from my perspective. And the biggest complaints that we got back were, one, why is it taking so long? And so for the first complaint, that is somewhat in our control, but it's somewhat not in our control. We
Right.
can't control when the court's going to give us a trial date. It's difficult for us to control what the defense attorney does. We have to be on our game moving the cases, but their delays are just part of the process. The second biggest complaint was I just never knew what was going on in my case. And I thought to myself, that is something I can fix. And we actually hired a person called our client support specialist. And it is her job just to communicate with clients. And it's actually helped us in a lot of ways, because sometimes the communication is just seeing, hey, how are you doing? But we've also found out, so we've had cases where somebody didn't go to treatment for 2 weeks, and you miss that if you're not talking to them. And
Right.
how come you didn't go to treatment? Oh, well, my car broke down. Well, why didn't you let us know? We'll get you a ride. We'll get you an Uber. Maybe we can help you fix the car. So that's really helped us to better understand the needs of our clients.
What inspired you to create Big River Trial Attorneys, and how do you really differentiate yourself from other firms?
Well,
I mean, obviously the client support.
Yeah, sure. One thing, we are not the right firm for every case. I'll just say that up front, right? If you drive through this state, probably every other state, you're going to see lots of billboards with call me if you've had this problem, call me if you've had that problem. We like to focus on commercial litigation. We like to focus on industrial accident litigation. We are not a mill, right? When you call us, you're not going to get somebody who just got out of law school last year and has maybe done nothing but sit there and try to settle chiropractic cases, things like that. So when you call us, I'm going to be involved on your case. Even if I'm not the lead attorney, I'm going to know what's going on about it.
Right.
So I wanted to provide that level of service that I felt almost sort of like a white glove experience. It's because I come from a business ownership background. A lot of my clients may not be what people typically think of when they think of car accident victims. A lot of my clients are business owners, business management. They get in wrecks too. They get injured too. They don't want to necessarily have their name associated with some billboard lawyer. They want to know their matters being handled discreetly and professionally. But they come in and they're upset about the delays in getting their car fixed. They have questions about, can I recover for this part of my lost wages? Well, I had a contract to do this work and I couldn't do this work because of my injuries. Is that something I can recover for? So we try to be a niche to a certain type of client. One thing that I did probably a couple of years ago, that really shaped the way we approach our cases is I created a client rating sheet. And so there's 13 factors on the sheet, and 10 of them can count for or against the client. The other 3 can only count for the client. And it's certain, because when we look back at our past clients, we realize that there are certain types of clients that we just work better with. And it's not that the other ones are bad people. They may have good cases. We're just maybe not the right firm for them.
Right.
And so in doing that, we've really defined our avatar about the types of clients that we work well with. And by grading our clients at the beginning, so to speak, we get the clients in that we believe are going to be a better fit for us.
Was there a moment where you realized that you had that need for that client rating sheet, or what kind of led up to the creation of that? I mean, that's really interesting.
Yeah. So if you find yourself spending a lot of time, and look, I'm talking from a law firm perspective, but this is a business, and my business is no different than your business. It's no different than a plumber's business. Every plumber out there has a certain type of avatar that is their better client. Every
Right.
mechanic out there has this. If you find yourself spending a lot of time either working on things that are not making you money or working on things that frustrate you because you really want to be working on something else, you need to look at why are you working on those things, right? Uh, Take out your calendar. What is on your calendar tomorrow that you are doing because you want to be doing it? Or what is on your calendar tomorrow that you're going to do because somebody else asked you to do it, but you don't really want to do it? You know,
Right.
as a business owner, you get to structure your life to fit the things that you want to do. I mean, not always. Look, there, I spent all last week in a 4-day jury trial. I did not want to be in that jury trial. We were ready. It's a great experience, but I had other stuff to do. But I had a say at the beginning of that case. And when we take a case, we prepare every case like we know it might go to trial. So,
Right. And I'm curious because you do personal injury and criminal defense and immigration law as well.
yeah, so I do primarily personal injury. We do have one associate here that does most of our criminal defense. I will get involved if the case is at the level that I need to be. The case that we tried last week was a criminal jury trial. I am the most experienced trial attorney in the office, so I went and I helped out with that trial. Immigration is always something I've done. It's a smaller part of my practice, but it's
Mhm.
an important part, just because that's a direct ability to you really see the help, your ability to help people. And we don't always, obviously, we don't succeed in every case, but uh,
Right.
a lot of what we're able to give, and a lot of the reason people come to an attorney is not for some guaranteed outcome, but to
Right.
know that someone with experience and knowledge is helping them with their matter.
So, Big River Trial Attorneys, the firm has this sort of, I guess you would say, like multidisciplinary sort of approach. And what are some of the challenges and benefits that come along with that?
Well, the challenge is it's hard to be an expert in too many things. So there was a time when I used to actually have a much larger law firm, and we were doing lots of immigration, we were doing family law, we were doing criminal defense, we might do some business litigation and some personal injury. Uh, and the more I niche down, the happier I am, I find.
Right.
So now we do, uh, I'm doing primarily personal injury. And if one of our existing clients has an immigration case, or their friend or their family has an immigration case, we'll help that person. But it's not something that we're actively out there seeking like we
Right.
used to. We've cut out all the family law because there's a that is a terrible area of practice. I feel sorry for those that do it. And I think your guest last week, he did family law, but he also does sort of a mediation aspect of it. And he talked about the difference of settling a case in 4 hours of mediation versus 4 years of litigation. And they're really nasty fights. And even on the criminal defense, uh, I was able to remove myself out a lot of it by bringing in other people who wanted to do that work and let them do it.
Well, and you have over 18 years of legal experience. Is that right?
That is correct. Yeah, I think October, in October, there'd be 19 years, October of this year. So since I was sworn in.
In those 18 years, what changes have you seen kind of in the personal injury space and in the space in which you practice? I
Well,
know that's a bit of a loaded question, right?
it covers a lot. So in personal injury, one of the real problems with personal injury is that everybody wants to do a little bit of it. And I say everybody, I mean, there's some people who have been smart enough to be an estate planning attorney, and that's what they do. And then, of course, you have some that just do mergers and acquisitions. But a lot of lawyers want to do what's called door law, where they sit there and whatever walks in the door, I can help you with that. I can do that. Whether because they like the challenge of it or they're desperate for the money, I don't know. But so people wind up hiring their neighbor's cousin who might do a little bit of personal injury, but he is not really a personal injury attorney. And if that person falls upon a really complex case, they're probably not going to get the most value out of that case. They probably don't have the experience to deal with the, very experienced insurance company or injury attorneys or defense attorneys rather representing a trucking litigation, because those are very specialized defense attorneys, or may not have the resources to hire the experts and take the depositions and do all that. So that is one thing that I've seen a lot, is that lawyers will take on cases they really have no business taking on.
Right.
And people don't make the distinction. They think, oh, well, I hired a lawyer. Well, you wouldn't go to your general practitioner and ask him about your heart condition. You're going to want to go to a cardiologist. You wouldn't go to, a urologist to talk about how your knee is doing. You're going to want an orthopedic surgeon for that. And so not all lawyers are the same. What I have seen, maybe what I've learned, is that the smarter lawyers specialize and niche down. In the personal injury space, it is so competitive. There are more and more billboard lawyers, I call them, out there. There are, of course, now you have the internet with people going online, and that's not our primary source of finding clients. Most of our clients are referred to us. We do a little bit of advertising to keep our branding out there. Somebody searching for us, I want us to find us. But that's one of the big things that's really challenged the practice of law, is being on the internet, people just Googling people. One of the big things that has challenges that we're still dealing with now is that there was a time, this is probably actually before my practice, but I've heard about it, where you graduated law school, you took the bar exam, you got sworn in, and you put up a shingle, they called it. And people just started calling you. Like, they just came in and said, hey, I've got a problem. I have never been fortunate to live in that part, but it is becoming harder and harder to compete in that. So you have to do things like our podcast to get that name recognition, to establish in the minds of other people that you are the specialist, that you know what you're doing.
Right. And, we've talked a little bit about the changes, that you've seen, over the last 18 years in this space, but can we flip it? What do you think, what changes do you anticipate coming, say, in the next 5 years? Everybody right now, the big talk is, AI. How do you think that's going to impact, the future?
So I don't think AI is going to put any lawyers out of business, but a lawyer who's good at AI is going to put some lawyers out of business. So I think you should embrace the technology. AI really got big in the legal world. I think some lazy lawyer up in New York used it to write a brief. And then there was this big reaction like, oh, well, that lawyer shouldn't have done that. Well, that's not new. Like, if I give an assignment to a law clerk to go research something and draft a motion for me, I am still responsible for reading that and making sure it's accurate before I put my name on it and turn it in.
Right. AI
is just another tool, another research tool that I'm still ultimately responsible for verifying before I sign it and turn it in.
Right.
Now, AI does make a lot of things easier. The biggest changes I think we'll see is how it's going to impact some of how lawyers advertise, because Google is secretly scared of what AI is going to do, because so Google is a search engine that you can ask it a question and it will give you information. And I'm saying AI, that's a very general term.
Right.
Because there's just so much of it. I mean, it can draw pictures, it can make songs, it can make logos, whatever. But from the sense of like a chat GPT or something like that, now you have a search engine that you can give it a query, it can find information and do something with the information, which is the step of what Google can't do. I think we're going to see more of the searches going there. As that moves, I think you're going to see more law firms try to figure out how do they blog to satisfy AI, how do they advertise on that AI, and we don't know that yet. So that's on the sort of the business side of the law. On the practice side, you see so lawyers have databases that they subscribe to, Westlaw, Lexis, where we research cases and things like that. Those are already implemented the AI to make searching better. And for that same type of technology where you can put in a query and it retrieves information, it does something with the information. But again, the lawyers who get good at that are going to be more efficient, and they're going to put out a better work product. And the lawyers who want to sit in the back and think they can just keep doing it the way they did it 10 years ago, they're going to fade out.
Right. I want to bring the conversation a little bit back around to you. You can speak Spanish, right? You can communicate in Spanish. And how has that enhanced your practice?
So that has actually helped us quite a lot. I can speak Spanish. There's no reason that I should be able to speak Spanish. I took French from second grade to 2 years in college. But then one day I decided I wanted to learn Spanish, and I set about learning it. And my Spanish is much better than my French, right? Which doesn't make any sense. But it's helped me a lot in obviously to communicate with clients. And look, if I interview a client about their case, I still use an interpreter because I know my Spanish is at an intermediate level, and there's going to be little details that are very important. We have people on staff who are native bilingual, but what it really does is put clients at ease. Or if I'm in court with a client, I can communicate with my client, and they can communicate with me. I don't need an interpreter for that. I do have that level of proficiency. If I get a phone call from a client and they want to talk to me, I can talk to them. Now, to be very honest about it, if I were in San Antonio, if I were in Los Angeles, where there's somebody who grew up speaking both languages natively, I probably would not, it wouldn't serve me quite as well. But being in Baton Rouge, where there's just not that many lawyers that speak Spanish, I think it really helps our clients feel more at ease, and it gives me a little bit of an advantage.
When you think back 18 years, when you think back on all the people and all the people, like clients, everyone that you have helped through Big River Trial Attorneys, through your practice, is there a story that stands out in your mind as an example of either a person, a business, whatever it may be, that you really saw a transformation, a positive transformation in as a result of your help and guidance? And could you share that story with us?
So when I was a very young lawyer, I got a call from a guy, and we'll call him Michael, never used a real name. Michael was walking to work. He was, I say older, he's probably the age I am now. He had severe macular degeneration. He had about 25% vision in one of his eyes. And he walked to work every day where he was a janitor. He walked to clean an office building. And so he's walking along a major road, and a tow truck made a U-turn and hit him in the back with its mirror.
Oh, wow.
And of course, the driver denied it. The driver said Michael was in the middle of the road. The insurance company screamed the whole time that, well, Michael doesn't know because he can't see. And Michael walked this route every day, right? So he knew that he was in right where the curb meets the grass. He knew he was on the shoulder.
Right. Right.
And so I always admired this person, the work ethic of somebody. He could have been on disability. He could have been laying home, drawing a check. He was still trying to provide for himself. Then to see him treated this way by this company, and the tow truck company worked for a major car dealership here in town. To see him treated this way by the company really kind of broke my heart. It really shaped me early on as an injury attorney. And when we settled his case, to be able to deliver that money to him, who was very smart with it. I mean, he didn't go out and, buy a Lamborghini or anything like that, or Mercedes. He didn't go out and blow it on stupid things. He said, I need this money to help me make it for the rest of my life. I think he used it to buy a piece of land that was next to his house, that he had inherited from his mother. That case always stays with me as a real ability to help somebody.
Rusty, this has been an absolutely awesome, really kind of informative conversation. If anybody out there listening could use your help, could use the help of Big River Trial Attorneys, or if they'd like to tune into your podcast, where can the people find you?
All right, so we are on the web, of course, at bigriverlaw.com. You can call us at 225-725-6000. We are on YouTube it is at Podcase Podcast, and we are also on Spotify at the Podcase Podcast. Adrian, I very much enjoyed speaking with you, and thank you.
Yeah, this is great. Thank you so much, Rusty, for coming on the show. Thank you.
My pleasure. Have a great day, my friend.
And thank you, everyone, for listening. This has been Partnerships for Profit, presented by LeDuc Entertainment. Thanks again, Rusty.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Partnerships for Profit. We hope you've gained valuable insights on how to form profitable partnerships and take your business to the next level. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. Got a partnership story to share or someone you'd like to see featured on the show? Reach out to us. Until next time, keep building those partnerships for profit.